Hey everybody, today I want to talk about those notches on your sleeve cap and armhole and where they should go, why they go there, and how you can approximate the position of them if you moved them around or if you're drafting your own sleeve. All right, first I'm going to show you where the notches are on a half scale pattern. Then I'm going to bring out a sleeve I drafted and show you how I decided where to put those notches. Here is a front and back, and you can see that the notches on this pattern are marked by these bars. So typically on a front sleeve you'll have one, usually they're triangles and patterns, but sometimes they could be lines, notches, dots, whatever. Now that there's a lot of indie patterns, you know, you can take license and put your own style notch on the pattern. But basically, the front has one or smaller, and the back has two or a bigger notch. And that's how you can tell the front and back notches apart. Now, obviously, on the bodice, that's not a big deal because you can see this is the back, you can see this is the front. But on the sleeve, you have the same situation where you've got two in the back, one in the front, and then you also have a third notch. This notch at the top of the cap, that's where you line up the sleeve cap with the shoulder seam, and that's right here. So a subscriber asked me, you know, how to position these notches on the sleeve cap and how they work and so on and so forth. So I just want to explain here from the tip of these wings, the section of the sleeve, from the top of the underarm sleeve to the notch, that's called the wing of the sleeve. That's an actual term in ready-to-wear, you know, in the garment industry. And the notch goes from the top of that underarm seam up until the sleeve cap starts to curve out again. So basically it's signifying the underarm, or the part of the sleeve cap that sits underneath the arm near your armpit. Now the reason why there's notches here, there's a few different reasons. First, we can tell the back and the front, so when we go to put it on our sleeve, we'll be ready to go. Secondly, the space between the notch and the underarm seam is not gathered. So if you're working with a woven pattern, you don't want to gather down in the under part of the armhole or the sleeve cap, because you don't need ease there. Where you need the ease is up around your shoulder to make extra room for your shoulder. So that's why from the notch straight through the cap, the top of the cap, and back down from here to here, that's where you gather the cap to fit the armhole if you're working with a woven pattern and it's bigger than the armhole. Now, where do these go? If you're working with a pattern that doesn't have notches, or if you drafted your own, you're going to have to position these, decide where they go. So in general, if you're working with smaller sizes, 0 to, let's say, 6, maybe 8, I would go about 2.5 inches from the top of the armhole edge, because remember, you're trying to capture the base of the armhole, right? So in the smaller sizes, it's going to be a shorter distance away, and in larger sizes, it's going to be a longer distance. And if I bring these pattern pieces back in here, you can see that the distance from the top of the side seam to the notch needs to be the same front and back. Okay, so that's how the notches work. I'm going to bring in my pattern I drafted. So I drafted the sleeve, and you can see it's a little bit of a messy thing here, but where I put my notches was right here and right here. So if I measure that distance, I'm going to get around 3 inches. So typically in larger size patterns, so I would say, 10 and up, the distance of that notch could be 3 and change. So in the back, you can see here, I have I don't know, that's like 3 1/4. And then in the front, I did that one a little bit farther. That one's more like 3 1/2. So, I mean, I could make them the same. So technically they probably should be the same, to get that underarm, but they're within 1/4 inch of each other, so I think that's fine. I mean, I could move this up 1/4 and make it so they're the same, because this is the area right here. All of this is where I want to gather, because what is that trying to fit? That's trying to fit the ball of your shoulder. So a little bit of fabric eased in on the top of the cap helps add room for your shoulder. So that's where you position. This is a princess seam pattern. It's the part of my Dottie cover. But basically, after you decide where they go on the sleeve cap, you can walk them. So I'll go in the back here, and I can go ahead and walk my my sleeve into my armhole like this. I'm just going to use my seam ripper to, oh no, wait a minute, I've got my thing here. So I'm just going to walk this right around. And when I get to the position of the notch, I can add that in right there. So now I know they matched because I walked it up to position it on the armhole. So I can just transfer that over like that. So there's the back notch is now positioned. And in the front, I can do the same thing. I can walk my sleeve armhole into the cap here, and I could come up with the position of the notch, which is right here. So I think if I put these together, you can see what I mean. If I line these up, you can see I'm capturing the underarm of the underside of the armhole where I'm not going to do any gathering. And so that's how you determine where those go. Now, the position of the top notch is the middle of the ease. That's the starting point. Sometimes you have to shift some of the ease to the back or front depending on the difference in length between your back and front armhole, but in general it's the middle of the ease. So if I were to keep walking this, and I'm just going to start at my notches because I know that those already agree, and I'm just going to keep walking this around like this. And of course I have to take the seam allowance off, so I'm just going to mark where that is right here. So my back ends right here, and I'm going to put a B for back. And my front, what do I do with my front? My front armhole. If I walk that all the way up, and again, I'm just going to start at the notch because I already walked the lower part. But basically, I'm just going to walk this right around. Okay, and again, I'm going to push back that 1/2 inch so I can see where my front ends. So my front ends right here. Okay, so the difference between where the back and front end is my ease. So the notch for the shoulder seam is going to be in the middle of that. So just to make it a different color, I'll make it red. So I would measure, and that would be the notch for my shoulder. And setting your sleeve in this way or matching those notches in the cap with the armhole and gathering it will help you evenly distribute the ease. Now, sometimes if your sleeve is not hanging properly, if it looks like it's pulling one way or the other, you could take out the sleeve cap from notch to notch across the top, and you can shift it back or forward to try to get it to hang properly, because sometimes the back might need more length or the front might need more length depending on your body's difference in length of your front and back armhole. So that's just a quick little tutorial. I wanted to come on and talk about this today because I took an extra kind of breather day yesterday after Easter, and I didn't have a tutorial, but one of my subscribers asked a question, and I thought this is a really cool thing to share, and I knew I could talk about it and get it up there for you. So if you have any questions or comments, please post those below and I will help you. If you're enjoying my content, consider liking or subscribing to my channel because it helps me grow. And I want to thank everybody for fitting along with me. Have a great day.